What's up everyone? I hope you've been well. Today our rig Loki is getting a pretty big upgrade as we are replacing the stock lower control arms with Total Chaos's Expedition Series stock length lower control arms with Uniballs. We've noticed a lot of moans and groans in our suspension lately, and we believe that the bushings and or ball joints in the lower control arms are nearing the end of their life. Also, speaking of suspension noises, we've also been hunting down a high-pitched suspension chirp, and 2 weeks ago I was replacing the upper control arms polyurethane bushings, and we noticed on the driver's side that the Uniball had a fair amount of play. Now, these Uniballs replace these stock ball joints, and the purpose of that is they offer a little bit more articulation and are a stronger joint overall. One downside though, however, is they're a little bit more exposed, and being that they're exposed, they wear out a little faster, but it is just part of the regular maintenance to swap those parts out, as well as the polyurethane bushings and keeping them in good shape. Now, this is not necessarily a how-to video, but more of a journey of our installation process and experience. So let's go ahead and get to work. Okay, so we have pretty good access here to the lower control arm. The ball joint is down here attached to the knuckle that attaches to the spindle, and you've got the shock mounted to the lower control arm, and up here are the lower control arm bushings. Now, before we go into breaking apart anything, we're going to make some marks on these caster adjusters. And the point of this is when we go and put this all back, we want to get this as close to the same settings as possible. That way the truck is sort of aligned once we're done. Now, either way, we're going to need to get an appointment to get this aligned. I have already set that up for Monday. One other thing we might run into is a lot of times I see in replacing these that these tend to seize up in here. There's a sleeve that this bolt goes through, and sometimes that sleeve seizes up into the bushing, and sometimes you end up having to cut all this hardware out. Now, just in case of that, I have a full set of caster pin sleeves and all new hardware to remount the new ones, but hopefully we don't run into that, and hopefully we can use the original ones that we have here. So we're going to go ahead and make our marks. Nah, I actually don't like that. Let's remake that down here. And then there are actually 4 of these. There's one on either side of each arm, so I'm going to go ahead and make the marks on all of them. Right, so now that we've gone ahead and made sure we've made our marks before we've started anything, before we forget, I believe the only things to break loose on the lower control arms are the caster pins, the shock mounts, and the knuckle from the spindle, and I believe we have every bit of access we need to be able to get these out. So we're going to start with these 19mm bolts holding the knuckle onto the spindle. We're going to break loose the shock from the lower control arm. We should be able to break apart the lower control arm from the actual lower control arm housings. These are 19mm bolts as well. So let's go ahead and break those out. Alright, well, I'm pleased that my lower control arms don't seem to be in too bad shape here. Hopefully I can pull this pin out. Oh yeah. But you'll see the amount of rust here. It's on its way to seizing. But we're in good shape. We don't have to cut our hardware off today. This should be fairly simple. One lower control arm removed. Woo! Heck yeah, it's a good feeling being able to get this lower control arm off without any issues. I'm gonna go ahead and get the passenger out real quick, and then we'll take it to the table and prep the Total Chaos set for the install. Apparently I may have spoken too soon. The passenger side is definitely giving me a little bit more trouble. I don't think it'll be too bad. It's definitely just more work than the driver's side though. But it's coming out. Go. All right, well, I had to move the operation to a shadier area, but here's all the hardware for holding the lower control arms back on. We're going to reuse this. The driver's side definitely has a fair amount more corrosion and rust buildup, but we're going to go ahead and hit that with some 220 sandpaper and some brake cleaner, and then lubricate it all up with some WD-40 and all that, and try to reuse these if we can. After starting to clean these up, I'm looking at this rust or this corrosion a little better, and there's some heavy pitting in here, and I'm actually starting to reconsider, and I think I'm just going to use the new hardware at whatever of the new hardware I can. These bolts here that came with the new hardware are actually the wrong size, but those don't look too bad here, so I'll be able to salvage those. But we'll just go ahead and use whatever new hardware we're able to. You're almost just as bad as cleaning up the old hardware. The new hardware comes with a beautifully installed sticker label that needs to get removed. And it's just maddening to me that this has to be done. This does not make this easy whatsoever. So just gonna hang out here and pick stickers off in the next 20 minutes, and I'll be right back to the install. Now that I've got new hardware here though, I need to be sure my marks are transferred over to the new hardware as good as possible. Gonna go ahead and keep cleaning this stuff up here. One of the next things we need to do is separate the knuckle from the lower control arm here off the ball joint. Go ahead and remove this bolt. This is a 15/16 for me. Okay, so I actually had to take this down to the ground. I couldn't do it on the table. It was too hard. I had to give it a good quick whack with the breaker bar. Now I've got it broke loose. Go ahead and take it off. I'm betting that's going to need a good couple of smacks. I didn't think about this. Getting a ball joint separator probably would have been a wise decision here. but I may have to just see what I can get with a hammer. There we go. Just a little bit of persuasion. There we go. Alright, now that we got our knuckles off, go ahead and clean these up just a little bit. Now that we've got all of our old parts cleaned up, we're going to go ahead and prep the new control arms. We're going to start by going ahead and putting the polyurethane bushings in. There is a short one and a long, or there's a short mount and a long mount, and so the front side gets the long bushing and short bushing on the back side, on the inside of it. Just got to go ahead and press those in, and then like I said, in the back it's just two of the long ones. Then we are going to go ahead and apply a generous amount of their supplied super lube to the inside diameter of the bushings and the outside face of the bushings. Now we've got a short sleeve and a long sleeve. We can go ahead and apply a good amount of that super lube to the two sleeves. This is just a really good silicone grease. And those will just slide in to there. It's probably gonna need to get beat in. Okay, so next we'll mount our knuckle to the Uniball. Just be sure for the right side. This is the physical stop here, and it's gonna wanna make contact with that tab they've got there, so that's how you tell which one's which. Then they have some supplied hardware here. We're going to go ahead and put some anti-seize on the misalignment spacers. Anytime we're dealing with metal on metal contact surfaces, it's a good idea to use a little bit of anti-seize. And then the knuckle will slide right up onto that. Our washer and our nut. Alright, now that we've got it all assembled, we can go ahead and tighten this up to the factory specifications, which for me it's 103 foot-pounds. Hopefully I can get this taken care of on the tabletop here. Alright, well apparently this bolt was actually 5/8, but my regular 5/8 does not fit on there because this is a 12-point bolt. So luckily I've got another socket set that's got one of these universals. Let's see if we can get on it like that. There we go, nice and torqued down. Good thing that worked out. All right, last thing to do here is install our Zerk fittings. These are fittings for adding grease. It's a regular maintenance item with the Total Chaos lower control arms and the uppers. Upper control arms have these same Zerk fittings. Just need a 3/8 wrench to ease them in there. Really want to be sure you're not cross-threading them. And you just want to get them facing towards the front so you can get good access so you can grease them. There we go, both facing the front. Should be easy to get them. All right, one down, one to go. All right, well there we are. Lower control arms are fully prepped and ready to go. We've got our bushings and we've got our knuckle, the ball joint bracket attached to the Uniball. Now, we're just about ready to install these. However, there's some bump stop extenders. I didn't realize that was coming with them. I'm gonna go ahead and take a look and see what's up with that. But just look at the difference here. This is the Total Chaos lower control arm stock length. And this is the factory one. New Total Chaos ones are about 2 times beefier than the original stock ones. So I'm really happy to be able to be getting these on to Loki today. But yeah, let's continue and check out what's up with the bump stop. So looking more into the bump stop, you can see that the stock arm is kind of flat. It's kind of just straight. The new Total Chaos ones have a totally different angle and design. So obviously something to do with the bump stop is to help keep everything the way it was. Now, I mean, the new control arms, they allow for extra articulation. There's probably a little bit more travel included in these. So it's probably just to keep them the same or as close to stock as possible. But we're gonna go ahead and get that spacer for the bump stop installed as well. Okay, so here is the stock bump stop. It looks like this just threads into the frame mount. Oh, okay. All right, well, here we go. So this is the factory bump stop. I had to trim this stud down to about 3/8. I think I got it to about 1/4 inch, close enough. So it appears to be what happens here is you take this threaded spacer and you install that on your trimmed piece, and then you've got this stud that gets threaded into here. Now, it's got a dimpled side and an Allen key side. I'm going to imagine the Allen key side goes down here just in case it doesn't come with a spacer afterwards. That way you can remove it. And then that gets thread all the way down there. Now, I didn't show you trimming the stud. You're gonna want like a portaband and a friend perhaps to do that nice and safely. I may do with a hand hacksaw and finish it off with a sawzall. Definitely a sketchy way to do it, but hey, when installing stuff at home, sometimes you're caught off guard and unprepared, but I may do with what I got. So let's go ahead and get this installed, and then we can get started on getting the lower control arm installed. And just like this, we now have newly extended bump stops. All right, and like with everything else, I've gone ahead and put copper anti-seize on all the metal on metal parts. Now for this, it might be a good idea to have a friend just to help hold things. but I think we'll make out just fine. There we go. And that's not too bad there. There we go. Next we can go ahead and try to get the shock mounted to the lower control arm. Alright, so I got the lower control arm mounted up to the truck and the shock mounted up, not tightened down yet. I'm having a little bit of trouble getting the knuckle to meet up to the spindle, and so I was trying to move it around, and now I've gone ahead and accidentally pulled the CV joint apart. Detaching the tie rod and the sway bar link, I was able to get enough movement in here to fix my CV axle joint, and it looks like I'm able to get the lineup that I need here. Just gonna take a little bit of effort there to get this to line back up. Is one beautifully installed lower control arm. Let's go ahead and whack in the passenger side just the same way, and then we can get started on the upper control arms there. And with that, the Total Chaos lower control arms are fully installed on Loki. I cannot wait to show you what the front of the truck is looking like. It's starting to look sick. But remember, I did mention I'm hunting down a suspension squeak as well. It sounds like this. And I believe it is the Total Chaos upper control arm Uniballs that are already installed on the truck and have been for the last 3 years. I am not going to show you the full teardown and getting those upper control arms out, as this video was about the lower control arms, but I do want to show the swapping of the Uniballs, as it's the same exact process on the lower control arms. Now, I do believe it's the driver's side, but might as well replace both of them while we're at it. So let's go ahead and get that out. Alright, so we have here out our Total Chaos upper control arms. This is the passenger side, and this one's a little, this one's loose. It's doesn't have a lot of play in it though, but it moves around freely. The driver's side, however, moves around very easily. I can just throw that thing around. That's way more play than it's supposed to have, and I don't know if you can see that, but that's got a ton of play. So like I said, I think that's our culprit. This is pretty straightforward. We're going to be removing these snap rings, and then Total Chaos sells a tool set to cup either side and press that ball joint in, and then you flip it around and press it, or press it out, and then you can press it back in with a vise. So first things first, we've got to go ahead and remove these snap rings. Now you need snap ring pliers, but let me rephrase that. You need good snap ring pliers, which of course I don't have. So we're gonna have to make do with what we got. And man, look at all that. There's a lot of corrosion up in there. I'm gonna have to fight this for a minute. This is what you get for going cheap with tools. We've already broken them. But there we go. One snap ring out. All right, and so here is the vise that I bought from Harbor Freight because I have never had to have one before, but I'm gonna have to do these uni-joints again later on down the road, and why not have a vise to do it so myself? Now, vise is only as good as what it's mounted to, and I just don't have a place to mount this thing, so I just went ahead and Tapconned it to some useless corner of my driveway where nobody will really ever notice that there's 3 holes. I'll go ahead and take those Tapcons out and remove the vise and set it off to the side for later use. But let's go ahead and get this uni-joint out of the upper control arm. So this is the side that the Uniball gets pushed into, so we are going to be pushing it out of there. So that is going to take the big cup so that the Uniball gets pushed out of the control arm and into our cup. And we're going to be doing that pushing with the small cup on the face edge of the Uniball. Now, I imagine that this is just going to be a little tricky to line all this up. This definitely seems like something where you need 2 sets of hands in order to make it easy. So let's see, that's good there. And I believe that's pretty well lined up. There we go. It is starting to push its way out. One Uniball removed. All right, and just like every other metal on metal contact surface, we're gonna do ourselves a favor and go ahead and apply a good liberal amount of copper anti-seize here. See if we can just go ahead and get this started just a little. Make sure that that's looking straight there. Oh no. All right, looks like my vise is not large enough. Okay, looks like we're gonna have to just press up against the bottom of the control arm then. All right, and that there looks like it's fully seated. Well, we were able to successfully press out and press in, press out the old Uniballs and press in the new Uniball joints. So that's a note worth making. That's a 5-inch vise. You need one that's a little bigger to be able to do it without all the putzing around, that is. Those are cleaned up. We can go ahead and get in our snap rings. Now it's worth mentioning the snap rings, you want to try and get these snap ring holes off to the side, not front and back. There we go. Be sure that's fully seated up in the side. Give it a little tap around. All right, last thing to do is get the misalignment spacers in. Is the big spacer on the bottom, little hold spacer on the top. We're gonna go ahead and do the same as before and apply a little bit of anti-seize to these. And with that, the upper control arms are fully re-uniballed. I'm going to go ahead and slap them in the truck, get everything buttoned back up, and we'll take a look to see how Loki sits now. Only logical next step is to give it a ride, a test drive both on-road and off-road. I know of just one small little dirt road nearby we'll give it a quick send on. Initially, the alignment is totally off. Your steering should not just hook in place wherever you put it. And I'm actually squealing the tires going just around a slight bend. I don't know which adjustment it is that's off, but that's why I've got an appointment on Monday to drop the truck off, get it all situated, and I'll have a beautiful thing after that. Well, feels pretty darn good on a bumpy dirt road. I'm happy with it. That's all I got for you. You have a great week, and we'll see you on the next one.
To learn more about us and find out ways to help support the adventures, visit our website, sunshinestatebikings.com. And to keep up with our adventures, be sure to subscribe and hit the notification button, and follow us on Facebook and Instagram at Sunshine State Vikings.